everyone, what is going on? Welcome back to my channel. Seeing as I just bought property, this is my forever home. When the company was here doing the electric and plumbing, I of course had them do the septic as well. So that's what this video is about. I'd love to share with you the process of what happened and how it was done and any tips and tricks along the way. So let's get to it. All right, as I said before, we use the same trencher and the same company that I did for electric and plumbing. So this time, after they were done with plumbing, they had to decide where they were going to dig out the septic. They ended up going between the pine tree and my tiny house. With this job being in between that tree and the tiny house, of course, they ran into a lot more bigger roots than they did on the other side of the tiny house. So they did have to get through all of those roots in order to be able to dig this trench in a way that will create a fall from my tiny house to the septic tank. Now, to create this fall, as they dug this path, they weaved from my house past a hole to get to the septic tank. We actually had to figure out where the septic tank was by probing it with a probe. The guys had to prep the whole trench for the pipes to be put in. First, they had to cut all of the roots that were in the trench, just like they did for the electrical and plumbing job. Over by the big house again, they had to dig in order to find the 3-foot pipe that was coming from the big house into the septic drain field. The pipes were laid along the trench. This is when they put the PVC glue and the primer along the PVC to connect all the pieces. While they dried on the side of the trench, that is when they cleaned up the area over by the big house, cut that to form a T for my tiny house drainage to go into the big house drainage. The company also had to make sure there was a big enough fall after the pipes were placed into the trench for the drainage from my tiny house to get to the original sewer. Now, because we had a hard time finding the septic in the first place, I took a marker and I marked on the side of my house where the septic pipe was. So if in the future I had to get in that area, I knew exactly where to dig. The rubber connector they used at one of the ends is also probably helpful, just in case I need to get to that in the future as well. After they got done by the big house, they filled in the hole by using the trencher again and a shovel to shove the dirt back into the hole. And then they smoothed it all out. Now, at the other side of my tiny house, they were creating a downspout, and they ended up making me a clean out spout. On my tiny house, I have never had a clean out spout before. I have had to do everything from the inside of the house, which means unclogging clogs, using Drano type stuff. There has never been a connection that I've been able to get inside my sewage pipes when I was living there for the first 4 years. This would be an access point where I can take off the little top and flush it either with water or some kind of solution to make sure that there was no backup from that point on. Before covering up the holes by my tiny house, they used a couple vertical upright supports to put against the tubing inside the trench to hold that and secure it in a specific direction. The electrical, plumbing, and sewer sewer guys had to come back days and weeks later. When the team came back, we turned on the water to see if it would drain because the plumbing had already been hooked up. So now we wanted to see if the sewage was draining. Well, it backed up in the sinks again, the kitchen sink and the bathroom sink. We had to figure out where this clog was, so they started in the kitchen sink, took off the P drain and used a drill with a long cable on it to auger that up into the pipe somewhere. They did the same thing on the outside of the house. They actually had to cut the work that they already did weeks before, try to auger up there to find where this clog was. And because they started from the inside and went up, the clog was somewhere in the middle. They had to come back yet another day. They had to try to find out where this clog was, so they laid down some tarps and got underneath the tiny house and tried to figure out where the pipes were directioned to and what positions they were in. According to this company, my builder installed the plumbing wrong on my tiny house, and they said he doesn't know how my water has been working and draining for the past 4 years. He said that they installed the wrong connection going from the bathroom and the kitchen and out. There's a Charlotte connection on there, which is not supposed to be on there. He said the T is turned the wrong way and that it was all installed wrong. So what they had to do was cut a 6-inch piece of PVC out of the underneath of the tiny house to find the middle clog. After cutting the 6-inch piece of PVC pipe underneath the tiny house, they used the cable and the drill again to auger up into the kitchen and up into the bathroom. Then on the inside of the house, they did the same thing and used a snake in order to go down the drain. It was a hair clog because we put that on the sink, and on the outside of the house, all of this goop and water started dripping out. So we did get some debris loosened up and was able to get the clog free. The company then closed off the 6-inch pipe underneath the house, also putting one of those rubber connectors so I can get into it later if I needed to, as well as on the outside of the tiny house in the front where they had to cut the hole in the first place. They put another rubber connector there so that I could get into it if I needed to in the future. When these guys were working, they said that it was not only hair that clogged the drain, but grease. So a tip, do not put grease down your drain. For the most part, I was not putting grease down my drain. If anything, I would soak it up with my paper towels or my coffee filters first, and there's might be a little bit of traces of grease on there. I don't know what else to do, so if you guys have any ideas about how to stop grease completely from getting down the drain, drop them in the comments below. The sewer installation is done, and I paid $1,370 for this job. Now that the guys were finished with their job, they were able to go home, and my tiny house now has utilities. The company suggested cleaning out the pipes before I use them, so I'll be doing some kind of either vinegar and baking soda or some kind of Drano just to clear the pipes out. Because I decided on this being my forever home, I wanted the utilities installed so that I could have a comfortable living situation. I hope that these utility videos that I've posted the past 3 weeks have been helpful to you, especially if you are looking for land for your tiny house as well. If there is a mobile home on the property, it's going to be a lot better because utilities are probably going to be installed. Now, if there is no utilities or mobile home on your property when you get it, I suggest heading on over to www.homesteadinghowto.com. I believe he had set up his little homestead and he had his utilities installed from scratch. So if you need advice on how to do those from scratch on your own, please head to his website and check out his information. If you guys like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and click the notifications bell so you can receive a notification every time I post a new video, which is every Sunday. Thank you guys so much for watching. You are the best. I will see you in the next video. I hope the utility but there's this Charlotte connection, and this time they used the cable and the drill, don't put that, whichever way they thought was the clog was because this is for because this is for because this is my forever home, I decided don't put any of this. I hope these utilities videos installed. I hope these utilities video put another rubber mechanism. Don't put that. So they put another rubber connector there in order for me. Don't put an order for me.